Empire would have regarded that as nonsensical.
Not only that, quite a lot of them join the Greens.
Really?
Yep.
Heavens above.
And vote Green and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So is there any reason that Julia, a feminist, should not tick all the boxes for voters and also Christians by sticking to, well, I hope she does, a left or centre-left agenda?
Well, there are Christians who vote for a left and centre-left agenda. There are Christians who vote for a conservative agenda, just as there are Jews, Muslims and Hindus and atheists who vote for across the spectrum. That's another of the furphies, is there is no connection between having a particular religious belief and voting a particular way. She will have, in her course through Emily's List and the feminist movement, she will have met Christian women who agreed with her, Muslim women who supported her. It won't be a shock to many people in churches or out of churches to have
I've always made the point, right through the Howard years, that if I look for allies in, say, campaigns about on Indigenous issues, but particularly on refugees, you found them amongst progressive nuns, you found them amongst Jesuit intellectuals. Certainly the Catholic Church is a broad church in that sense, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you also find them among evangelicals. When I said I don't think that it makes any sense to talk about a Christian swing to Kevin '07, I do think one thing that probably did play quite well for him was Tim Costello commending the Labor Party's position on asylum seekers and overseas aid as being more Christian than the Liberal Party's position. I think that church people would have paid attention to that.
Of course, one thing that is different about now is the way that people can use Christianity or agitate under, sort of a Christian mantle in the face of what they see as a threat from Muslims.
Yeah, there's two paradoxes going on. One is, as the Western world gets less and less religious, fewer and fewer of us practice a religion, fewer and fewer of us care. Political leaders, not only in Australia, but many other countries, are getting more and more outspoken about faith. And people sort of saying we represent the Christian view, whoever they might be. In Australia, it tends to be the Australian Christian lobby, become more public and vocal. And quite often that is a sort of partly a reaction against religious diversity, not against lack of religiosity. But there's a feeling there's all these other strange religions out there, and this one, even if most of us don't actually practice it, at least it seems safe and familiar.
You're far too young to remember this, but I grew up at a time when the great social divisions in Victoria and elsewhere in Australia was Catholic and Protestant. And I'd go to school with my best friend Johnny Sinclair, but he went to the Catholic school next door, I went to the state school, and it was on for young and old all day. We abused each other over the fence. Yeah. Nowadays, and then, of course, the idea of funding church schools for the Labor Party, forget it, blasphemy. And yet now, Howard, and Rudd continued it, pours more and more money into religious schools and as a consequence really effectively less into what used to be called state schools.
That's one of the things that really puzzles me about Australian politics. Why did Mark Latham get accused of having a hit list and igniting class warfare for wanting to even out the funding of schools? I've got a school-aged kid. I look at the schools and think, what? How can a Labor Party that says it's about fairness and an equal go for everybody be continuing to pour more and more money into these plainly very wealthy schools? But not only that, the federal government also funds chaplains in state schools, and at the beginning of this year announced a $47 million extension of the program so that there can be more religious chaplains operating in state schools.
You'll have to do a new version of your book now, won't you? Now that everything's changing.
That's a good idea, Philip.
God under Gillard. The rise of the...
Oh, that alliterates.
It's good.
Does,
Come back in 6 months. You'll probably have it written by then. Thank you very much. Marion Maddox, Associate Professor and Director of the Centre for Social Inclusion at Macquarie University. I have a lifelong difficulty naming myself in programs. It's the convention where you sort of identify yourself about a dozen times every hour. But I do it once a year, and this is the night. The name is Adams, Phillip with 2 L's, and this is Late Night Live with 2 L's on ABC Radio National, etc. Oh, okay. Let's now jump, because I had expecting to talk to Ezzo Manzini on issues of social innovation, but we can't track him down in Milan. So what I want to do is jump straight to the third story, which is the memoirs of a 1950s patrol officer in WA. But a little bit of music first.